Hey everyone, Matt Benelli here, and today's a special one. A lot's been happening lately out in the community and right here at CoachEm. So I thought, who better to help break it all down than my longtime business partner, co-founder, and the CEO of CoachEm, Colum Lundt. Now, Colum's not just a co-founder, he's been in the trenches since day one. And in this episode, we're pulling back the curtain. You're going to hear what we've been up to at CoachEm, what we're seeing out there in the market, and where this movement could be heading next. So whether you're a go-to-market leader, a frontline manager, an enablement pro, this episode's for you. Welcome to Coach to Scale, how modern leaders build coaching cultures. I'm your host, Matt Benelli. Join me as we build a community of like-minded professionals who share the belief that effective coaching improves the performance of every team member. Our mission is to help leaders become better coaches. The Coach to Scale podcast is sponsored by CoachEm, the world's first AI coaching execution platform that leverages evidence-based coaching to increase quota attainment. And with that, let's get started. Colum, welcome back to Coach to Scale.
Thank you. It's good to be back.
All right. And we are we're pushing the boundaries of working remotely today, both of us. So cross fingers that this all comes together, but thanks for taking the time to carve this out. So kick off, high level question. A lot of people are very familiar with what we're doing at CoachEm, but not everybody. So let's talk to them. We're going to talk about let's start basics and then we'll work into what's new. So first question, what does CoachEm do and what's its mission?
So if you're okay with it, maybe I'll just start with why, and then I can talk about what we do. And
that was the next question. Always better to start with the why and then the what.
Simon Sinek, start with why. We built the platform is because for many years, we witnessed frontline managers struggling. They get the least amount of training. They are under the most pressure. And after the pandemic, it became very evident that while managers were always integral, intentional coaching, management, and leadership became essential. And so if you want to get the most out of your sales reps, many of whom are working remotely, you need to get the best from your managers. But they're really struggling with the demands placed on them, higher span of control. We're seeing it rise almost, by the quarter, and it's really not fair. So we built a platform to help them and make managers multipliers. That's the tagline. And I think the data, independent of our data, shows that for every dollar you invest in a manager, there's a 7 or 8x return.
Yeah. I think that helps answer some questions out there that a lot of people may have, right? Helping managers be better coaches. Okay, that's the why. Now the what. So how does CoachEm fit into the whole puzzle?
Sure. So we're a revenue acceleration platform built for go-to-market leaders, collecting the data within their tech stack, transcripts and conversational intelligence, sales engagement, CRM data, etc., crunching it, and really taking all the prep work and guesswork out of a one-on-one or team meeting. As you know, there's two types of coaching, but fundamentally, what we see across the board is deal coaching, which is almost akin to helping a player or a team make a second half adjustment during a game. The other bigger piece, the more sustainable, long-term, beneficial coaching is developmental coaching or skills coach.
Mm-hmm.
And that is coaching between the games. And so we endeavor to do both. We started off just providing the developmental coaching, but many of the managers we worked with said, hey, listen, can you help me avoid having to log in all these different systems and pull data? Can you give me a one-stop shop? So that's what our platform is, built for managers and leaders.
And what does an ideal client look like for CoachEm?
Tech client, more than 50 people. We'll consider, when I say 50 people, I mean 50 people in sales. Under certain circumstances, we might consider something different, but generally speaking, tech, 50 or more salespeople. And most importantly, it's got to be a leader who looks at coaching as a priority and not just something that's important, because you can get every Tom, Dick, and Harry to say coaching is important, but and we know it's not their fault. Most CROs who are listening to this know that the average lifespan of a CRO in the role is, 14 to 16 months. So what happens with that sort of Damocles hanging over their head is they just focus just on deals, and coaching kind of goes out the window. And what happens as a result of that is it plays into the natural tendency of many frontline managers to want to be the super rep. What do they know? Being good sales reps. They're thrust into this role under pressure. They revert back to closing deals, getting involved late stage, which is just, it may allow you to kind of hit your number, maybe, but it's definitely not going to let you scale.
And so where does AI fit into this, and how's that shaping the role of the manager today?
I believe it was Yamini Rangan, who's the CEO of HubSpot. I think I saw a post from her, so I want to give credit where credit is due, that there are sort of, and it may have been Dharmesh, but one of them basically said, hey, there's sort of two types of, there's two buckets, for lack of a better word, AI.
Mm-hmm.
The AI agent, and then there's the AI copilot. I think where things are going for a manager is they need a copilot. That copilot could have agents that work for it, but really need that assistant to take all the prep work and guesswork, to do all the investigation, to give them alerts. Where I think this is going is you're going to have AI that can replace certain jobs or tasks. And then you're going to have AI that enhances jobs that cannot be replaced. And that's sort of the bucket we fit in. We enhance the manager role. Very interesting reason why we did a ton of research. Many people listening may not know this, but call centers were leaders in leveraging AI early on. What the early research showed is that the call center agents, the CSRs, they didn't want to be coached by an AI tool. And the reason that kept coming up over and over again was AI technology can't relate to them. It can't empathize with them. And it definitely can't hold them accountable. And that last piece is the number one thing I hear literally week in and week out when I'm talking to sales leaders, is their managers struggle with fostering a culture of accountability. And so for those reasons, we believe the manager role will always be essential, but they need help.
Okay. So you talked a little bit about where the AI is today. Where might it be taking us? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I've had a lot of discussions. It's hard to keep up, as you know, things are advancing so quickly. I remember Moore's Law, which is like passe now, but it was sort of, you double the transistors every 2 years. And I think that pace of change has to be, 5x that.
Accelerated.
So it's hard to see where exactly it's going, but I do believe this is what's going to happen. When prospects reach out to a company because they have some interest, maybe a piece of marketing content piqued their interest, or they ran a search for a solution problem they have, AI will be there to help deliver answers. It could be an AI avatar. I know there's lots of technologies like that right now to give and facilitate quick answers for the prospective buyer. So it's that digital buying journey facilitated by an AI SDR agent type of thing. Personally, and from people I talk to, they don't want an AI BDR, if you will, calling them because it's artificial. That's what the A stands for in AI. It's artificial. And for the very same reasons that the agents in call centers, the customer service reps, didn't want to deal with this AI tool alone. They wanted a human being to relate to them and empathize and hold them accountable, et cetera. I think for those very same reasons, prospects are not going to want to hear from a bot. I mean, I'm someone who, when I call a 800 number from my bank or whatever, I get frustrated pretty quickly, and I'm like screaming into the phone, representative. So I think that, I can't imagine it being so good that people would welcome, an artificial call, but maybe it'll happen. But I definitely do see in the sales and go-to-market world, the agents helping drive much greater productivity and doing a lot of the grunt work that you do sort of pre-call and post-call. I mean, if you really think about it, Matt, we can envision, if you stitch together some of the tools that are already available, a salesperson's role is going to be really to hit a button to join a call. Why? Because you can use AI technology to divine and collect intent signals. It can figure out who at the company is hitting the website or interested, and look at their social media and figure out their communication style, craft a message or cadence of messages with a link in the calendar. That person eventually says, yeah, I'm interested, clicks a button, or maybe they hit the website and then they click a button. And eventually the salesperson is sort of just sitting there joining a call. Now, in my estimation, what's going to happen is the competence of that salesperson is going to be so much higher. Number one, there's been so much more data given and gleaned from the digital exhaust that these people leave. And there's going to be less salespeople. They're going to need to be much more competent on these calls. So discovery, showing proof points, mapping the value, understanding how all that ties to the prospects, corporate imperatives and business initiatives, all that good stuff. Being a great facilitator of the process. All of that is going to be, I think, super important, but or more important it is today.
So we've been doing this podcast for about 2 years. And one of the points that somebody made early on, one of the guests, was that, and you've heard it echoed, AI isn't going to replace salespeople, but AI is going to replace salespeople that don't leverage AI. Do you believe that at the time? We believe that at the time. Do you still believe that statement to be correct?
Yeah, I do. And I think what you're saying, I want to make sure I'm agreeing to the right thing, is that a rep who doesn't use AI will be replaced by a rep who does. Yeah. And with the possible exception for inbound, for SDRs. So I told my son, who just got into the game, make sure you're getting a role that's BDR outbound, because a lot of companies are moving in the direction of trying to figure out how to automate, how they respond to inbound leads. I hope that's not the case, but I'd hedge my bets, or I encourage him to hedge his bets. But yeah, I agree with that statement. AI is not going to necessarily replace a sales rep, but a rep who uses AI will definitely be replacing a rep who doesn't.
Yeah. Those, salespeople need to up their game continuously, right? They're saying that if you're not growing, you're dying. It certainly holds water today, probably more so than ever. So in terms of pain points, Colum, what are you hearing out there? And maybe differentiate pain points from larger enterprises that you're talking to versus the pain points of the smaller SMB, businesses that you're talking to.
Sure. I've had 2 or 3 conversations with CROs of very large, well, one's the chief of staff, but the other 2 are CROs with large sales organizations, like over 1,000 plus. And a consistent theme there was, how do we quickly enable people in a way that allows us to take advantage of whatever the thing is that we need to enable them on. For example, let's say you have a product, and that particular product, you have one of many, right? You have 100 reps across the globe that sell this product, and a competitor is starting to have some financial difficulty. So you want to sort of pounce on them, or maybe it's a security company and their competitor got breached, or there's some circumstance in which you want to basically run an initiative and you want to get all your 100 reps trained on this thing very quickly. How do you do it? How can you leverage AI, because you can't scale it with humans? And so it's, how do you rapidly close that loop from building this content of whatever it is to ensuring comprehension, to ensuring people are competent. And so a big thing we're doing lately, which leads into one of the initial questions you mentioned in terms of the agenda, about CoachEm and what we're doing. We partnered with a fantastic company called Hyperbound. We think they're the best in the game at AI role play. And that helps a company quickly stand up an AI bot, role play bot, which is super realistic. You can create a rubric or scorecard on the back end. So whatever you want to enable them on, let's just say it's this campaign and you want your folks sort of, rubbing some tinfoil in the cavity when they call the clients of that competitor who are floundering, right? I think that's going to really help scale enablement. So that's an example of AI helping to scale enablement. So you can literally go from content to comprehension to competency certification very quickly to take advantage of that window of opportunity. And the same could be for like rolling product out or sales goes up. That's one. That's a big one in the larger companies.
And anything different to point out in the SMB?
I hear a lot in both, but recently it's come up a lot more in sort of mid-market is change fatigue. And this gets to what we talked about earlier around the pace of AI, and there's so many tools. And I mean, there is literally no question about it. A ton of change being thrown on people in addition to the normal routine, right, of sales. Like you have to be ready for change if you're in sales. You can have a new comp plan, a new territory, a new product. I mean, there's always going to be change, but the amount that's thrown at them, it's like a plant where you're sort of watering with a fire hose, it's just, you can't absorb it. So we're hearing that a lot.
And, in terms of the exciting partnership with Hyperbound, you touched on it. Is there anything else you want to talk about as it pertains to that partnership and the announcement?
The only thing I would say is we've built manager bots that are integrated into our platform. What does that mean? Well, you and I have talked about this, but I'd encourage any of the listeners to think about this question. How often does a manager or second line manager, but let's say frontline manager, how often do they role play when they become a manager? And I'm not talking about helping their reps role play prospecting, scenarios. I'm talking about how do you best handle an excuse maker on your team? How do you handle excuses? Similar to the way you used to handle object. How often do you practice dealing with a rep who comes with some type of unreasonable request for a raise or a promotion, 3 months into the role? How do you hone your craft at interviewing, behavioral interviewing? I mean, there's no shortage of scenarios that managers have to deal with. And we've built some very, very cool bots using Hyperbound in our experience that people laugh at. I've had probably 80% of the people who see it say, oh my gosh, I have PTSD. I had a rep just like that, sounded same excuses. So I think that's an interesting twist on it. It's not just helping your reps role play, but it's ensuring your managers are continuing to hone their own craft.
That's super exciting. And you touched on the product, but do you want to elaborate on changes, updates with the product and what's going on there?
Sure. So we've done a lot to enhance the manager experience, including providing much more charts and graphs to show detailed behavior. So as you probably remember, or some of the folks who know us, we're not only identifying patterns and trends of results that might be cause for concern with a rep, we're helping the manager triage that, but then we're diving down into that root cause diagnosis. So an example may be a sales rep, their sales cycle length is really going in the wrong direction, or when compared to the top performers, they're like way off. And that sales cycle length increase is more egregious than closing deals. Like they're closing deals, but taking forever, right? Or more egregious than deal size.
Yep.
the big question a manager has to do is figure out like, why is that? You could have 10 reasons why, or 12 reasons, major reasons why a deal takes longer to close than it should. But let's just pretend that for this particular rep that the manager's having a one-on-one with, the biggest issue of those 10 or 12 is that they're not nailing down a next step in the calendar, what we would call a firm future commitment. We all know that that's killer. Number one, if you have a prospect that refuses to put a time, date, and agenda in the calendar,
Right.
you can kind of smoke it out as a suspect, not a prospect. But putting that aside, even if they have every intention of meeting with you, you could be playing phone tag, for weeks trying to get that thing scheduled, right? So that's a very important thing we all know for reps to do. Now we're surfacing the graphs and charts of that behavior. Is the rep now asking for a next step in the calendar more than they did? So it's helping managers and reps dial in to a much greater degree. We've also added much more micro learning. Again, we've integrated Hyperbound into the bot. And most importantly, I think we're building out and finalizing the deal coaching. So not only does the manager focus on fundamental skills, but then they can kind of look at the deals at certain stages and using the call transcripts that we've scored, because we built our own transcription agent, which is looking at over 800 word phrases, over 20 different major categories, and over 100 different topics within those categories. So we can kind of score their deals to help provide very precise coaching on the gaps in those deals. So that's exciting and helps us get one step closer to being that single pane of glass for the frontline manager.
And we've talked a lot about the sales realm. Can CoachEm be leveraged by customer success?
Yes, good question. That's another trend. So yes, the short answer is yes. That is literally being worked on as we speak. Right now, for the role that customer success has as it relates to cross-selling and upselling, CoachEm works out of the box. We're enhancing it based on some of the other behaviors our clients have told us they want their CSMs to be acting on, and some of the e-learning that needs to be piped in when we discover an issue. Managers want that remedy handy. They want the prescription on the shelf. But certainly we're seeing a little bit of a trend more towards account management and away from the more customer service oriented part of the job.
Sure.
There's like this pull, depending on which company you talk to, their customer success managers are closer to customer service, or they're like wolves in sheep's clothing, when they have their own quota for upsell and cross-sell. And we're seeing that sort of slide much more towards the old traditional account management role. And so it's the same type of thing. It's like once you identify something, you still got to run a sales cycle. You still have to hunt, but now you're hunting on the farm. So we're looking at things like who are they directing their activity? How much activity? Obviously, who are they directing it towards? Are they adding new contacts in that account? How many contacts are they gleaning from referrals? All that good stuff.
It's funny. The more we slice it and dice it, the more things stay the same. We're all in sales, and the basics are important. And what we're talking about applies to all the different go-to-market functions for sure. So as we wrap up here, we've talked about a lot of exciting things, but let me give you the last word on this. What do you want to leave the audience with? Is there a question I should have asked you, but I didn't? What do you think?
No, I think the only thing to underscore is how important the manager role is. It's been largely ignored. I think with the right technology, managers can manage more people and still do a good job. There is an absolute ROI. And if you don't believe me, talk to anyone who's familiar with how Blade Logic used to do it. They were bought, I think, by BMC. But the people who left that company were wildly successful. And you can trace sort of the lineage of these people who've been wildly successful back to then. And what did they do? What I've been told and read is that they made the managers experts at whatever they wanted to roll out with their reps. So they invested in their managers first and foremost. And I don't care if it's how they deal with a new comp plan or a new product the company's going to roll out or whatever it is, they wanted those managers to be absolutely bulletproof. Why? Because they knew that someone coming in from enablement or, some type of episodic training event is not really going to move the needle like a manager would who's with them day in and day out. So, managers, enablers, leaders are teachers, and the emphasis on the managers will be rewarded.
Well said. Amen to that. And Colum, for those who are interested, how do they learn more?
CoachEm.io. You can reach out to me, Colum at CoachEm.io. Connect with me on LinkedIn. Happy to talk to anyone. As you can tell, I'm probably passionate, more than passionate about this. And part of it's because I've been through this as you have, where you get that sort of battlefield promotion and you're figuring things out as best you can. But man, if we had the same type of tooling and training that reps get, managers would be so much more effective, so much more productive. You'd have greater retention, much greater productivity, more deals, bigger deals, faster deals.
Awesome. Well, listen, Colum, thanks a lot. We covered a lot of ground. We talked about why CoachEm was formed, what's going on with CoachEm today, where AI is now in our world, where it could be going. And, we talked about the exciting partnerships and enhancements to the product. So thanks for fitting this into your calendar today, and thanks for bringing it. Appreciate it.
I appreciate you having me back on, and I always enjoy a good chance to plug CoachEm. So thanks.
All right. And for everybody out there watching and listening, thanks for doing that. Let us know what you liked out there. Let us know what you think of the platform. Let us know what you'd like to see and hear more of. We appreciate you. And until next time, coach them if you want to keep them. We hope you've enjoyed this episode of Coach to Scale, How Modern Leaders Build Coaching Cultures. For show notes and other episodes, visit us at CoachEm.io. That's CoachEm.io. And follow us on Twitter at CoachEmNow. See you all next week. Thanks for joining. And remember, coach them if you want to keep them.